YouTube. We're going to do the lunchtime trip again. I actually just plugged in the address, or a address for the building that I know is near where I want to go, and we will see how it goes today. I was actually expecting that it was going to default to taking me on the a short bit of highway, but it looks like it's going to take us on suburban city streets. So let's see how it performs. I'm not expecting much change, truthfully, so that's why you won't see like a ton of daily drive clips or anything from me. If I notice changes. That being said, I really do wish sometimes that I just left the camera recording all the time, because I've driven a few of the paths sorry, just wanted to see how the behavior here in terms of like the kids and the pedestrian and everything. I mean, I think the car handled that the right way. Here's where we do the hard brake for the grate. Sometimes it goes through the stop sign and sometimes it stops again. All right, so such is life. I wish it would just brake a little more subtly on that one. I don't. It almost seems like it's a last second realization that maybe it should be stopping there. So it sees the grate, but then it just interprets it as a stops, like a line, versus being an actual grate for rain and such. All right, so we'll probably do a creep here because I really can't see. All right, and there we go. So far so good. Back to what I was saying, I really do wish sometimes that it just kept a camera rolling at all times, because I've done the same roads a few times, and it seems like every time I'm not rolling on the camera is when I have the more egregious issues. And then as soon as I put the camera on, like the hesitations and the little nuances that and issues that it was having before are a little bit more, I don't know the right term for it. They're just not as big of an issue. In other words, it's not as dramatic of a, take you out of your seat, like, what did the car just do? I mean, like, there are times where I legitimately will curse and be like, what the F was that? So good news is, for anybody who follows FSD, there are a few people with their Model Ys and Hardware 4 that have already gotten 12.5, and so far I'm actually hearing pretty good things. There's actually, I stumbled across another person on YouTube that's doing 12.5 videos right now in the St. Louis area, so I find it interesting. They look like they've had some pretty good drives on 12.5, and so we actually don't live too far from each other, it would appear. Maybe just a couple miles away from each other. So I actually think it might be interesting if I were to take this vehicle down right now with Hardware 3, especially when I get 12.5 to this vehicle. Like, so if we end up on the same update, and see if there really is a difference between, let's say, Hardware 3 and Hardware 4 in terms of how the vehicle itself handles the same trip. I think it would be interesting, at least on my part, because I noticed their vehicle on 12.5. There's actually a trip that they did when they were going to the West County Mall, and I can tell you exactly how my car would have handled the merger from I-64 onto 270. I would have gotten this kind of, it would have actually taken me onto the on-ramp, and then it would have put me completely onto 270, and then I would immediately merge back over into the same lane to exit. And see here, I just had to do it again because it wants to cut, and I have a car to the left of me, but it still wants to cut the lane. And that left-hand turn, just I don't understand why it's cutting into the lane for the car on the left. And normally, if it does that and there's no car to my left, I don't worry too much about it. I'll let it do that, let it do its thing, because there's no issue. In that particular scenario, I legitimately would be getting into that other driver's lane, and so that to me is kind of a failure point. So a little bit below the speed limit, doing 37 and a 40. Lately, what I found myself doing is I'll give it just a touch of gas, like I'm going to do right now, and then I'll at least kind of get it up to the speed limit, and that tends to kind of be a signal to the car like, hey, you can go a little bit faster, and then it drives a little bit more like how I would drive, in the sense of, you know, a few miles an hour over the speed limit's fine, go with the flow of traffic, that type of scenario. So far, one issue, one intervention, if you want to call it that. Some of you might be comfortable with the vehicle kind of exiting its lane, because I know people do, like human beings will drive like that all the time, right? Like, instead of taking the left-hand turn super wide if you're in the outer lane, it's not uncommon for people to kind of cut the line a little bit, especially if the car on the inside is taking a tighter turn. It gives you some room to be able to make that same kind of maneuver, but that's not something I'm comfortable with. I just, you know, at the end of the day, if there ever was an accident, you're the one in the wrong lane. You're the one that cut the lane, so, you know, you're the one that's either predominantly at fault or fully at fault for the accident if that happens. So to me, full self-driving should be making that turn and maintaining its lane and making the proper one. We're not in the left side, so we don't have to deal with the drift, so I expect this to go smoothly. We'll see. I'm pretty sure this is going to end up, yeah, according to the directions, we're going to be taking Willett in about a mile. And Willett is one of the roads where it sometimes has some odd hesitations or zigzagging, kind of abrupt zigzagging, almost like a evasive maneuver type scenario. Sometimes it's very subtle, sometimes it's very aggressive. I'd love to get it on camera to see if we can ever figure out what the car is really doing, so I can kind of rewind it and see it. Seems like whenever it's super aggressive, like I said, I just don't have the camera in there. I'm going to give it a little bit more gas here, I know, or a little bit more acceleration. Old habits die hard, right? It's not gas anymore. But technically, by the way, it's never gas. It's more air. But historically, we call it the gas pedal, right? Nice and smooth on that part. I don't know that I've ever really recorded being on this side of the lane for that turn, but that one can be a little bit odd. Sometimes the car will drift because this lane gets wider just at that part of that turn, the apex of that turn. And so sometimes it actually, I don't know, it seems to favor the line on the left side rather than paying attention to the sidewalk or the curb and trying to be centered. So in that case, I felt like it actually kept that pretty centered compared to historical. All right, so I don't mean to butcher anybody's name, but we do have somebody running for judge and in the area. I don't know about the rest of you, but every time I see a sign for that particular judge, all I can think is like Beavis and Butthead. And my name is Cornholio. I need TP for my... So, I'm aging myself there, but that name just reminds me of Beavis and Butthead. So, all right. Smooth, nice turn, waited for traffic to clear, and it went. So, A+ on that turn, no issues. So again, as a reminder for those, or really for those that don't watch all the videos and just popped in, up here in, I don't know, quarter of a mile, half mile, is a fire station. Somewhere around the fire station, usually right as we're kind of hitting the turn, that's right around where the fire station is, the car can react a little bit. Looks like we're going to be having to make an evasive maneuver here. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. People kind of keep leaving the lane and coming back into it. Yeah. All right. So they're passing a car that's has its hazards on. That's what they're doing. Let's see. Let's see how what FSD decides it's going to do. If it's just going to hang out or what it's going to do. Personally, I'm okay. By the way, we just passed the fire station. No issues there. It handled it well today. We didn't get any of the oddball maneuvering or zigzagging. So now we're coming up on the truck that just a minute ago has its hazards on and was going slower than traffic, and people were going around it. If it were to have its hazards on and I was driving behind it, if it was doing 30 miles an hour like we're doing right now, I mean, that's just below the speed limit. I wouldn't have pushed it or passed it. I'd have just kind of hung out. The car is actually going slow down the hill. Like, it has the brakes applied, even though the speed limit's 35. So far, hands-free on this portion of the drive. I mean, other than making that left-hand turn, and just not maintaining the lane, it's doing good. All right, so now this guy's putting his blinkers on again. It's a very odd behavior for this particular truck in front of us. Like, driving fine, had the blinkers off, and then now he's putting the blinkers on. So I don't know if he's having a mechanical issue, and so maybe he's trying to just keep the truck moving or something, not let it stall out, or who knows. But just very weird to. Very weird behavior. Like, what do you? So now he turned it off again. So you might have noticed it's making some small minor corrections. This is another part where I said it'll have that jankiness, but that you didn't really feel it in the car. You just saw it in the steering wheel where it kind of did this like flicker to the right to kind of maintain the lane. So yeah, same thing there. Really should take a more gradual turn instead of like this hard recorrect. So that's what I was talking about in earlier videos. It's like the car's allowing itself to drift, but then what you're getting is just kind of this like almost aggressive maneuver to recenter, rather than it just maintaining that center line or that nice kind of the nice apex through the turn, right? Rather than drifting and then pulling back tight. So a little painful right now. I won't lie. As somebody who tends to drive a little bit faster on this road, doing the speed limit is just a tad painful. It's not even just like the speed limit. Like it kind of hanging out just below it. So it's like, oh. But it is doing Automax, and we are thinking like Robotaxi. Again, for everybody who watches, I'm just doing this from the perspective of, if I was, not just me, like I'm actually taking the perspective of people who are reluctant to get into a car that drives itself, right? And okay, well, not sure which lane would have been ideal to be in, but this, I guess maybe it picked up on this person's actions and that they were trying to get over, and it decided to give them the lane. Who knows? I did not pick up on that though, so maybe the car did a good job where I would not have. Let's see how it holds the lane here. Sometimes I think maybe the issue with that particular portion of the road is just the angles, right? It's on a hill, it's a turn, it's a slightly blind turn. If you're looking for lane markings, you just can't see them right away until you start to make the turn. And as you kind of crest at the hill right in the intersection, that's when all of a sudden the lane markings become more visible. And then at that point, the car has to correct. So, but I don't know. There's GPS data in the car, I would think, or want it to kind of also pull in some of that GPS data to help. So you would think that it would have a better ability to kind of like dial itself in on that, but still not really an issue. It managed it. All right, waited for the truck to clear. Not bad acceleration. Speed appropriate for these kind of the curviness here. If you're driving it yourself, this is one of those areas when the traffic is busy, it feels compressed because those turns and the speeds at which you take the turns, and the way these lanes almost feel a little narrow, especially if you have like a truck next to you taking this at the same time. But yeah, I mean, pretty much the end of the ride at this point. So one correction, and I'm really hopeful, fingers crossed, just from what I'm seeing on people who've posted 12.5, I'm very, very hopeful that like making these left-hand turns is a thing of the past where it's not handling it properly. So I'll let the car get down here. It'll make the right at this next light, and then that'll be the end of the video. I'll disengage and we'll go from there. See how it goes. All right, final right turn. No issues. All right. See you all soon. Thanks for going for the ride.